Welcome to another Traffic with Win. So I saw this question on Facebook the other day from a friend of mine who's turning 30 and said, hey, what do I have to look forward to in my 30s? I'm about to leave my 20s. And I made a joke on the video or on his question like, hey dude, it's all going downhill from here. And I actually never follow up with what actually the real answer. And so I wanted to, I've got a bit of a commute today in traffic, so wanted to share what I think, what if you're turning 30 or you're feeling like you're getting old or you're turning another like decade or you're crossing a significant milestone in your life, whatever that number is, right? It could be 40, 50, even 60, 70, whatever the number is, 10 to 20, 20 to 30s. First of all, if you even thinking about how things would change and should change when you are turned, like, I'm just gonna pick age as a number, but again, that goes back to whatever that significant milestone that you feel like you're crossing into. Again, I'm gonna use age, but I try to remind myself that it's just an arbitrary number, right? So I'm 35 now, turning 36, and I've been thinking about what happened in my 20s compared to what happens in my 30s, and how I would have advised my younger self to think about it. And again, this will apply to when I turn 40, 50, 60 as well. But from my experience, I'm going to speak from both what happened and how I was versus what I would advise my younger self to do. So in my 20s, you know, the plus side, there's a lot more energy, there's a lot more hunger. I was grinding 7 days a week, probably going to the gym at 4:30 and barely feeling it. I remember in my 30s though, I still feel like that's still there, but there's a bit of a calmness to it, and there's a bit of stability to it. So what I wish I had told myself, or someone had told me to think about my 20s, is stop stressing so much. I was trying to quote unquote make it so much, and that was the only focus that I had, that it caused unnecessary stress. And partially it was added by this hustle culture, right? And I think like in my 20s, I was watching Gary V's and like all these other YouTubers, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing them. I wish that I had the wisdom to say, hey, that worked for somebody else in that way, but here's what works for me and what I want, right? And I wish that in my 20s I had lived less like anxiously, and that angst and that like worry, I think that anxiety comes from this innate kind of like fear of lack or fear of like not having enough. Audio froze out for no reason. And that's crazy because in your 20s, in my 20s, right, we're never gonna be younger, and I wish I had taken more time to enjoy life a little bit more. It doesn't mean that I should have like become more lazy or lazier. I was working hard anyways, but I wasn't like exactly enjoying the work as much because I was trying to get to a destination versus just enjoying the journey, right? At the risk of sounding cliche, but I think the distinction is this. I worked 80 hours a week in my 20s, and it wasn't like painful work, but I did the work because I felt like I had to, and I just kind of like will myself into working it, versus somebody else, like a different version of me in my 20s, would have still worked 80 hours a week, right, to get to the destination, but what I experience and how I go about those 80 hours would have been more enjoyable, because I felt like I had to do it, so I forced myself to do it, versus maybe doing it a little bit differently and changing my mindset around like, hey, I choose to do 80 hours a week, and this is why, and this is what I'm doing, and this is how I am enjoying it. I just never made a switch of like, oh, I could work hard and enjoy the work. I just worked hard because my guru said that's what it takes, and then it just wasn't enjoyable. So that would be like the number one thing I would say, like enjoy your 20s a little bit more. You know why? Because the work never ends. Because in my 20s, I thought, man, if I just work really hard, and then it will end, and then I get to enjoy it. And I think that, like, for me, somebody could have, should have, and I could have sought out help and advice. And somebody, I wish somebody had told me, like, hey, enjoy the work. You're gonna work 60 hours just because of who you are every day for the rest of your life, maybe, right? But enjoy it anyways. Don't try to get to a destination and think and tell yourself, then I'm gonna allow myself to enjoy my life. Do the work in your 20s, but enjoy it anyways. And I would say maybe work a little bit less, because if you don't think, you're not trying to get out of a situation and not trying to arrive at somewhere, and you think of your life as you're just living and going through motions, right? Then what's the point of working 80 hours now if you know that, hey, you're never gonna stop working forever? So that's the first one. Enjoy it a little bit more. And then in my 30s, how it's been better, and back to that, like, hey, I just said, hey, don't work as hard. I think that in my 20s, I should have focused on, again, when I do this again, I would remind myself that in my 20s, it's all about acquiring skills. Like, don't try to become rich and like retire so fast, and don't be distracted by, you know, the glamorous things on YouTube and Instagram. Try to learn the valuable skills that you genuinely enjoy. Maybe you'll make a little bit less money in the beginning, in the whole of your 20s. But the whole point of your 20s is to get valuable skill sets at the things that you are good at and that you enjoy. Okay, and it goes back to, I've willed myself into acquiring skills that I might not necessarily like thoroughly enjoyed, and it served me well financially at this point. But I wish that I had like focused on the other stuff too, that I probably would enjoy more and are more geared toward my innate abilities and natural talents. Because if you get good at the things that you are in naturally good at and passionate about, it doesn't mean that you won't learn the other skills, but that acquiring that skill set that you're good at will actually be more profitable, and you make more money, and you become more valuable in the marketplace. And then when you bolt on the other skill set that you maybe not enjoy as much, it's not the main thing. It will just make you better from what you're already great at, if that makes sense. So to give you an example, if you innately are good at like processes and you're an engineer, which actually what I'm actually good at with systems and engineers, here's how I would have done my 20s differently. I would have gone and doubled down on that skill set of being an engineer, or the engineering skill sets, and I'm staying away from the job title, right? Not just because you're innately could be potentially be good at engineering tasks and systems doesn't mean it should be an engineer, right? There's the things that you're good at, and it is the job that you do. So what I wish I've done better in my 20s, I would have done it better in my 20s, is like exploring what I naturally am good at and enjoy doing, and then like not let fear be my guidance, and just be okay with like, hey, I'm gonna explore this skill set. I'm gonna make $60,000 a year doing this, and maybe I'm not gonna make as much money as say somebody who's gonna go and become like a salesperson, right? Whatever. And then in my 30s is when I'm really good at the systems and the processes, and then I can acquire and bolt on and add to that with sales skills and marketing skills. But my engineering skills are a 10 out of 10, and my sales and marketing are like 6, 7, maybe 8 out of 10, right? Through practice and coaches and programs, versus looking outward and thinking, hey, my guru said go learn sales, and I'm like innately not a natural salesperson, if you will, right? And then be a 7 or an 8 at sales in my 20s. And then in my 30s, bolt on my systems and my engineering skill sets to like a 7 and an 8 because I've ignored it for 10 years, right? It's not going to be a 10 just because I'm innately geared toward it. I think that would be a much more profitable path to go because I am 10 out of 10 in the things I am naturally good at and passionate about. And in the sales and marketing part, just make it better. I think I would be much further ahead versus getting to a 6 to a 7 in a skill set that I am not naturally good at, but the guru said you should do, and then add on the systems and the process to a 7 and an 8, again, because I've ignored it for 10, 20 years, it's undeveloped, right? So that to wrap it up, right, in my 20s, get good at the skill set that I'm naturally inclined and innately good to do. So do that exploration, take personality tests. There's a bunch of different tests that you can take online, and I would pay for those. And just in my 20s, get good at those skills. Stop trying to arrive at some place. Get good at those skills. Enjoy life a little bit more. Work 60 hours a week still, but on the things that you're good at and you enjoy anyways. You know, meet more people, date more, you know. My wife might kill me if she listens to this. And then in your 30s is when you reap the rewards, where you actually add on to your skills and build onto it. Like, again, back to me, if I'm a 10 out of 10 engineering skill sets or like mechanics skill sets, man, in my 30s, I can bolt on the business training and a business sales and marketing piece. And if I had a business, it'd be an 8-figure business in my 30s. And that's like awesome. Like, I wish that I had thought this, or someone had told me like, hey, by the time you like hit 35 or 40 and you have an 8-figure business because you double down on your strengths in your 20s and then bolt on the things that you're not as good at in your 30s, I'd be like, sign me up for that, right? So at the commute is ending now, but I think, again, if I had to go back to my 19-year-old, 20 years old, I would say, dude, smell the roses a little bit. Yes, work hard, work your 60, 80 hours a week, but take the quote-unquote potential pay cut, double down on the things that you're good at, explore what you're good at, really enjoy it, really pursue it. The money's there. You're not going to starve. Don't try to get rich overnight. In your 30s, then you get to reap the rewards. And in a way, I'm trying to do that now myself with my skill sets that I've acquired. Honestly, out of sheer will. I never thought I'd be leading sales team or be like actually decent at sales that I am today. But I'm like a 7. I would say I'm a 7 or an 8 in that. And that's been years of training and taking courses and learning on my own, right? I would be an 11 right now if I double down on my, out of 10, if I double down on my innate ability, which has always been engineering, processes, systems, data analysis. Like, I remember taking personality tests in college, and it had nothing to do with sales. It's like counselor, like advisor, like system thinking, the analyst. And so I wish I'd taken that advice for myself. And so I'd be at an 11 right now in that skill set. And then I could be like even a 4 or 5 or 6, right? In terms of business, I think I'd be making way more money and live a much more enjoyable life, I think, than I am now. So that's my advice. If you're in your 20s right now and you're like, what do I even do? How do I even focus on my skill set and my strength? I don't even know what they are. Take a bunch of personality tests. There's the Myers-Briggs. There's the Kolbe test. There's the human design that's blowing up on social media right now. There's something called the wealth dynamics. All of them are not going to give you the definitive answer, right? Me as an engineer, I wanted to know the test that will tell me, hey, Win, this is exactly what you do. This is what the job you apply for, and you're going to be happy for it after, right? And it takes me 35 years to learn and accept. I still don't want to accept it, but I have to accept it that no test is going to tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. It's going to help you guide and help you see the clues. And if you're an engineering type, it's going to give you the data, the evidence that you can compare and analyze to know what you're good at with data, right? So I'm not like a type of person that would like act purely on feelings, right? And I need data to back it up. So then take a bunch of tests, and it's been consistent like forever for me, actually. So I don't know why I keep searching for the answer. The answer's been there the whole time. So anyways, learn, get to know yourself in your 20s. Enjoy the process, work hard, hustle still, yes, to get what you want. You have to deserve what you want, right? But do that in a much more aligned way with your innate talent. And then in your 30s, when you bolt on, and again, I'm using the numbers, the years in very, just as a signpost. It could be in your between 20 and 25 and then 30 to 30, 25 to 30, right? That number doesn't matter. It's like, hey, the first stage of your life once you graduate is to figure out what you're good at and double down on your skill set you enjoy and can really commit yourself to. And then the next stage is then bolt on the skill sets that are complementary onto your basic like fundamental strengths, and then you'll be taken, you'll be well rewarded for it, and the journey will be much more enjoyable. So that's it. Hopefully this is helpful. This is just a ramble to myself. If you find values in this, comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experience so far. And I look forward to talking with you through the video again.